bring in Congressman Adam Smith of Washington. He's the ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman Smith, thank you very much for staying up to the wee hours to talk with us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the chance, Rachel.
So first, let me just get your overall reaction to this news tonight that the U.S. has begun bombing ISIS targets in Syria. I know that you had said that you supported the president's efforts to arm and train rebel forces in Syria. You support these airstrikes as well?
Well, I think the biggest thing about this is the coalition that has been brought together to have Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Jordan, Qatar and UAE as part of this. I think is absolutely critical. If this is a U.S. dominated, U.S. alone effort, it won't be successful, and I think that's an important step. The next most important step, though, is we've really got to get the Sunnis in Iraq, and then some in Syria, hopefully with the training and equip mission as part of it, to join in this fight. And we still have a long way to go in that regard, getting the Sunnis on the ground to be willing to oppose ISIS. I mean, the airstrikes, the coalition that's put together is a good first step, but there's a long way to go to have the local support necessary to be successful here.
After the amount of time that the United States spent in Iraq, in particular trying to build an inclusive and effective Iraqi army, working on Iraqi security forces at every level, trying to do things like build Iraq an air force and all of the other things that we did, and all of the tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars that the U.S. spent trying to build capacity in Iraq. Is there anything left undone that we haven't already tried in terms of trying to get Iraqis to do something that we see in their interest that they plainly don't see that way? I mean, what else could the U.S. do in Iraq to change, Sunni tribesmen's minds about what their own interests are?
No, I think that's an excellent point, and that's a good cause for skepticism. And look, if you didn't have a threat like ISIS, popping up here that so clearly is a threat to the region. I mean, it's a threat not just in Syria and Iraq, but to Jordan, to surrounding countries. They wish to export terrorist attacks. You can make a strong argument that there's really nothing much we can do, but ISIS is the changing factor, and the only hope we can have is that threat, the vision in Iraq, ISIS rolling through Mosul, down into Tikrit, out to the outskirts of Baghdad, will force them to reconsider, because really it's just one issue. They have to be inclusive instead of sectarian. That is what Maliki utterly failed to do. He continued to drive out the Sunnis, drive them away. And we'll see if al-Mahdi does any better. The initial signs are not necessarily positive. The Sunnis are still saying that promises are not being kept. There's not being enough done to include them in the government. That has to happen. The hope is that the very real terror threat of ISIS, right outside of Baghdad, will hopefully focus their minds on the fact that they just can't afford to be a corrupt sectarian government and survive. But it's no guarantee, that's for sure.
Congressman Adam Smith, one last question for you. Do you expect that Congress may return to Washington to try to vote on whether or not these strikes should continue, to vote on authorizing this use of force? The U.S. military and the president has just ordered a start of a new significant U.S. air war in the Middle East. Congress has not weighed in on this at all. And Congress, in fact, isn't due to be back in Washington for another 2 months. Do you expect that Congress might come back to address this matter?
I think the pressure is building to do that. I've been working specifically with Minority Whip Steny Hoyer, talking about ways we could pull together a working group. Look, Congress should speak on this issue. This is without question war. This is something that Congress should authorize. I mean, the president has his Article 2 authority, and he can make his argument. But, Congress is always complaining that the president is, overtaking our power. Well, here's an opportunity. So absolutely Congress should pass an AUMF. The problem, of course, is that the politics very, very difficult in getting that done for a wide variety of reasons. But no question we should act. I think the pressure is building to overcome those political policy objections and actually do what the Congress ought to do.
Congressman Adam Smith, ranking Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, thank you for your time tonight, sir. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's actually news to hear, and from a member of Congress in a position to know. Congressman Smith is the ranking Democrat, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee. And so if he's saying that pressure is building in Congress, that they ought to peep here, that they ought to say something, A, I think that's news, but B, I think that those political winds may, in fact, be shifting right now in Washington. I'm not sure that a Congress can give itself 54 days in a row off and just walk away when a new air war starts and they haven't said anything about it.